Morning, Rabotai. Let us start, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're starting Daf Yud Chet. We're in the middle of discussing the Shimon HaPakuli was Misader. He organized Yud Chet Berachot, 18 Berachot in front of Rabbi Gamliel, Ala Seder, in the order that they're supposed to be in Yavne. And we're up to Bnei Israel. We're up to Binyan Yerushalayim. So we said on the bottom of Yud Zayin, V'kivan shenivnit Yerushalayim. After Yerushalayim is built, which is Tishkon betoch Yerushalayim ircha, Ba David. Then we have David, which is Tzemach David. Shneimar Achar Yashuvu Bnei Israel Ubekshu et Hashem Elohehem ve'et David Malkam. Rashi, what's Achar? Achar sheyashuvu lebeit hamikdash. After they come back to the Beit HaMikdash, ubikshu hakadosh baruch hu ve'et David Malkam. The last Hashem and David HaMelech. So that's it. Tzemach David Avdecha. V'kivan sheba David, and when David comes, ba'atat tefillah. The tefillah comes. Shene'emar, v'haviotim el har kochi, v'simachtim bevet tefillati. When they come to the Beit HaMikdash, they get tefillah, because the Beit HaMikdash is the Beit Tefillah. So according to these mekorot, Shomea tefillah sounds like it's a prayer to hear the tefillah the ultimate way, which is in the Beit HaMikdash. It doesn't say anywhere in that source that it's after David comes. It says that it's when you get to the Beit HaMikdash, you have Kabbalat Tefillah. Still a little bit difficult. The Maharsha says that since you only have a mitzvah to build the Beit HaMikdash after you have a king, so therefore it means Bat David, Bat Tefillah. The Beit HaMikdash is a Beit Tefillah. It's there after you have David. But it doesn't fit so well with Rashi, because Rashi said, Ahar Yashuvu Bnei Israel is after they build the Beit HaMikdash, right? And then they come to David. So there's a little bit of a contradiction between Rashi and the Maharsha. The Maharsha says that the Beit HaMikdash comes after David because it's a mitzvah to put up a king and then to build the Beit HaMikdash. And Rashi is saying they're only asking for David after they build the Beit HaMikdash. Then the Gemara says, V'kivan shebat tefillah, when we get tefillah, bat avodah, you also have avodah, shnei emar, in the Beit HaMikdash, right? And it's in the same pasuk. V'aviotim el har kochi, v'simachtim bevet tefillati, olotehem v'zivchehem lerason al mizbechi. The olot and the zvachim will be on favor on the mizbeach. So it seems like we're talking that they're going to pray that the korbanot should be accepted beratzon. So kiven shebat tefillah, bata avodah. Shneimar olotehem v'zivchehem lerason al mizbechi. V'kivan shebat avodah. When the avodah comes, ba'ata todah, or ba'atoda'ah, Hoda'ah comes, thanking Hashem comes. Shneimar, zoveach todah yechabedani. The one that slaughters a todah gives me honor. It seems almost like he's saying that the zevicha, the highest point of avodah, is a korban todah, to thank Hashem. Kivan Shabbat avodah, you brought korbanot, and then you're going to get to the high point of korbanot, which is korban todah. Rashi zoveach todah, achar zevicha ten hoda'ah. Rashi seems to be taking the pasuk in an alternative way. Zoveach, after you make zevicha, todah. Thank Hashem, not with a korban todah, but Thank Hashem. The Gemara continues. Omar Ra'ul Omar Birkat Kohanim Ahar Hoda'ah. Why did they say Birkat Kohanim after Hoda'ah? So we say Dichtiv. Vayisa Aharon et Yadav el Ha'am vayvarichem. Aaron lifted his hands to the people and he blessed them. Vayered, and he came down. Me'asot ha'chatat ve'ha'olah ve'ha'shilamim. And then he came down from performing the service of the Chatat, the Olah, and the Shlamim. He's talking on Yom HaShemini. So it's mashma that on the surface, it sounds like first he did Birkat Kohanim, and then he did the Chatat and the Olah and the Shlamim, and then he came down. Says the Gemara, if so, Ema Kodem Avodah. So if that's the case, he should make Birkat Kohanim before it says, because it says, Vayista Haron et Yadav el Ha'am. He made Kohanim, he lifted his hands. And it sounds like then he did the Hatat and the Olah, and then he came down. Says the Gemara, no, it's not what happened. Lo sal kadaitach. D'chtiv, vayered me'asot hatat. Mi ketiv la'asot. Did he go down after the Birkat Kohanim in order to make the Hatat? Me'asot ketiv. Right? He already did it. So what really is talking is that Aharon finished the Korbanot on the Mizbeach. And on the Mizbeach, he made the Birkat Kohanim. And then he came down from doing the Avodah. But it was the Avodah and then Birkat Kohanim. If that's the case, so you're telling me that the order is Avodah and then Birkat Kohanim. So why do we put Modim in between Avodah and Birkat Kohanim? We should have done Kohanim and then Todah. V'leimre achar ha'avodah. Why don't you say it after Avodah? Lo sal kadaitach. Tichtiv zoveach Todah. It says as soon as you make the Zevicha, you have to make the Todah. So now we have a stira. On one hand, we know that right after Avodah comes Birkat Kohanim from Vayered Me'asot. On the other hand, we have Zoveach Todah. That right after Zevicha comes Todah. So why my Chazit? This Samchata Hai. Why are you relying on this pasuk that says Zoveach Todah? That Todah comes right after the Zevicha. Smocha Hai. Rely on the pasuk that says that Birkat Kohanim comes after Avodah. Gemara says Mistabra. It makes sense. Avodah vehoda'ah hadam iltahi. That serving Hashem and thanking Hashem is the same thing. Birkat Kohanim is serving us. Rashi chadam iltahi. Hoda'ah, also the thanking of Hashem. Avodah shel makom is serving Hashem, but the Birkat Kohanim is more towards helping the Jewish people. Umar Ra'ul Omar Sim Shalom Achar Birkat Kohanim.
So it's not a hoda'ah, it's part of the avodah.
It's a hoda'ah, but hoda'ah is maybe the goal of avodah is to come to the point of thanking Hashem. You know, there's a olah shilamim, but the goal of those things is a thank you and a appreciation of Hashem. Birkat Kohanim, while it's something that Hashem told the Kohanim to do, the goal of it is to bless the people on Hashem's behalf. So it makes sense to put the thanks of Hashem, which is us pointing up, and the Korban, which is us pointing up, as opposed to Birkat Kohanim, which is the Kohanim directing Hashem's beracha down to us. Right. Umar Ra'ul Omar Sim Shalom Achar Birkat Kohanim. Dechtiv Vesamu et Shemi al Bnei Yisrael. They'll place my name on Bnei Yisrael. Va'ani avarechem, and I'll bless them. And beracha da Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the blessing of Hashem, Shalom, is peace. Shneimar Hashem yevarech et amo b'shalom. Hashem blesses the people with peace. So the Gemara says, "V'chi me'achar." Look in Rashi. No, there's no Rashi. V'chi me'achar de me'a ve'esrim zekenim umehem kama nevi'im tiknu tefila ala seder So you just told me that the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, comprising of 120 rabbis, including Nevi'im, made the order based on
Rabbi,
these Pesukim. Yes.
Rabbi, just on the previous point, the Kohanim is after Abodah and Hoda'ah. It's not in between any.
In the pasuk, it says that you do the avodah and then birkat kohanim. Why should you interrupt it with hodah? So the answer is because hodah is closer to avodah than birkat kohanim is. Obviously, it's after. It's also after Magen Avraham, but we don't. We try and put things that are next to each other in the Pesukim. We like to put them directly, one after the other, not just it's sometime after. Again, the Gemara's question: V'chim me'achar de 120 zekenim umehem kama nevi'im tiknu tefillah ala seder. They instituted the tefillah in order. Shimon HaPakuli, my hisdir. What did Shimon HaPakuli organize? So we answer, Shechachum v'chazru v'yisadum. They forgot them and they put him back. He put it back. So we had that on before, on Daf Bet, that they forgot different things. Over here, the Ben Ish Chai says, it's very difficult to assume that they forgot the order of the berachot of the tefillah. Same every day. The people that think that in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, they only brought korbanot that didn't pray, so they think, after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, they had to, they get to come back to praying. But it's not true. They prayed the whole time of the Beit HaMikdash. So the Ben Ish Chai says, of course, they remembered the order. But what they forgot was what was the sources for the order. And Shimon HaPakuli was able to bring back all the Pesukim of sources as to why they did it like that. Mikan va'etz. Now, just on the side, Tosafot says on Daf Yud Zayin, his dir Shemona Esrei berachot ala seder. Says Mikan kashe lema shepirish Rashi beberachot kabeemtzayot en lahem seder tepiresh timta'a be'acham min haberachot v'shachach echamem shetzarich lachazor. Let's say a guy skipped one of the middle berachot. Rashi says ברכה אומר שאומר אותה ברכה ששכח במקום שנזכר. So the guy forgot to say Barech Alenu. He's holding by Shomea Tefillah. No problem. Just say Barech Alenu and go to Shomea Tefillah. Because that's what the Gemara says. In Tzayot and Lahem Seder. They don't have an order. So what do you mean doesn't have an order? Shimon HaPakuli just gave you the whole order of the middle berachot from Pesukim. Right? Vikasha, the imken, who omer 18 berachot lemafreya. He's saying the 18 berachot out of order. The hacha chazina, the Shimon HaPakuli hitkin otam ala seder. Shimon HaPakuli made him in order, and the Gemara said tefillah lemafreya lo. Ela nireh lefarish hatam en laim seder. The law v'kishalosh lishonot v'shalosh aharonot. The hozel l'rosh tefillah kisheta'a ba'ahamem. It's not like we said over there that if you made a mistake, you have to go back to the beginning of the Amidah. In the middle ones, you could just go back to the point of mistake. But of course, once you go back to that point, you have to say in order. Okay, let's continue. Says the Gemara, the Braita continues. Mikam va'elach, more than the praises that we have in the Amidah, asur l'saper b'shivcho shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can't speak Hashem's praises. Rashi says, what does it mean you can't praise Hashem? I can't say Hallel. I can't praise Hashem in my own words. Rashi says, asur l'saper b'kiviut beracha. You can't praise Hashem in a beracha. The Amar Rabbi Lazar says, my dechtiv mi yimalel gevurot Hashem. Who will speak the might of Hashem? Yashmiya kol tehilato. He'll mention all his praises. Lemina lemalel gevurot Hashem. To who is it proper to mention the might of Hashem? Lemishi yachol hashmiya kol tehilato. to the one that could say all his praises. Now, who could say all Hashem's praises? We can't even understand Hashem. Look in Rashi. Lemishi yachol. It's the second line from the top. Ve'en mishi yachol lesaper et kulo. Nobody could say all Hashem's praises. Being that that's the way it is. Lafikach en lesaper mida'ato. So don't say anything on your own. Like the Gemara says in Masechet Berachot, you would think, what could it hurt to praise somebody if you're not doing it all the way? The Gemara says, if a guy has 1,000,000 gold coins and you say he has 1,000,000 silver coins, you just lowered his wealth by 25 times because the gold is worth 25 times the silver. So shortchanging praise when it seems like you're praising, seems like you're saying everything, and you leave out a lot of important things, that could be insulting. Masha'enken, when you're focusing on a limited scope, so then what I leave out is not insulting. So when we say only what Chazal told us, it's not insulting that we left anything out. We're saying what we were told to say. But if you decide to get up and add your own praises, then why'd you leave something out? Amar Rabba Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hamisaper b'shivcho shel makom yoter midai. If somebody adds praises to Hashem too much, more than he's supposed to, which is Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, Ne'ekar min ha'olam, he's uprooted from the world. Shene'emar, like it says in Iyov, Hayisupar lo ki adaber, em amar ish ki yevula. Now, seemingly, Iyov is saying, does Hashem hear when I talk to him? Iyov is complaining. He feels like he's not getting the fair treatment, and Hashem is not listening to his complaints. But the Gemara is quoting it in a way of dirash. Look in Rashi. Hayisupar lo ki adaber, hachi dari shle. This is how Rabbi is explaining it. Hayisupar shivho kulo ki arbelo devarai. Hayisupar lo. Will I be able to say over all Hashem's praises, ki adaber, as much as I speak? I can't say all of his praises. And im amarti la'asot ken, and if I tried to do that, ki yevula, I'd be swallowed up, like Rashi said, like the Gemara says, is ne'ebad min ha'olam. Darash Rabbi Yehuda ish kefar giburya, ve'amri la ish kefar gibur hayu. My dichtiv, what is it that it says? Lecha dumiya tehila, to you silence is praise. Sama dechula mishtuka. The medicine for everything is silence. Rashi. Sama dechula mishtuka. Mivhar kol samanim. The best medicine, hu hashetika, is silence. Shelo laharbot devarim. Don't talk too much. V'hainu lecha dumiya tehila. To you, praise is the silence is a praise. You know why I'm silent? Because I can't do it, so I don't say anything. But it seems like the Gemara is also sama dechula mashtuka, not only when it comes to praising Hashem, but also in life. Ki atar Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, Amar, he said, Amri b'ma'arava, they say in Israel, Mila besela. If you could pay $1 for a word, mishtuka betrein. Buy silence for 2. Rashi. Mila besela mishtuka betrein. Im tertze leknot dibur besela. If you want to buy words for a sela, tekneh hashtika b'shtayim. Pay to be silent, double that amount. Kira'a al peh lo yatsa. If he read the Megillah, but al peh he's not yotze. Minalan. How do you know that you have to read the Megillah from a sefer? Amar Rabbi, atya zechira zechira. We learn the Gezerah Shabbat. Ketiv ha'acha. It says about the Megillah. Vayamim ha'ele nizkarim. These days are mentioned. Ochtiv ha'atam. It says over there. Ketov zot zikaron b'sefer. Right. This is Parashat Amalek. Zikaron b'sefer mentioned in the book. Ma'alehalan, just like over there, the zikaron is b'sefer, afkan b'sefer. So too over here, the zikaron of Mordechai and Esther is in a sefer. Umimai dahai zechira kiriyahi. Dilma iyum be'alma. How do you know that when it says Vayamim ha'ela is Karim, it means you have to say it? Maybe you just have to think about it. Lo sal kadaitach. You can't say that. Dichtiv Zachor. It says about Parashat Amalek. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Yachol belev. I might say remember it in your mind. Kishu omer lo tishkach. When it says don't forget. Haresh chatalev amur. The forgetting is already said. Hamani mekayem zachor. So why do I say zachor? Bepeh. It has to be verbally. So it has to be verbally. And from Basefer, I learned that it has to be from in the book. Kira'ah Targum. If he read it in translation, lo yatzah, he wasn't yotzeh. So the Gemara clarifies. Hey chidami, what are we talking about? Ilema dichtiva mikra bekari le Targum. So what are you saying? The guy has a Megillah written in Hebrew, and as he's reading it, right, he's translating on the fly into Aramaic. He says, Hainu al peh. The reason why I'm not yotzeh is not even because I read it in Aramaic, because what I'm saying, right, I'm saying that the Megillah in Aramaic is not written. I'm not reading what it says. So I'm saying it ba'al peh. Hainu al peh. Lo tzricha dichtiva targum, dekari le targum. We're talking, he has a Megillah written the whole thing out in Aramaic. He's reading it in Aramaic, and he's still not yotzeh. Why? Because you have to read it in Hebrew. Aval korino to lelo
Rabbi, like sometimes in the Machzor in the back, it writes like the Arabic songs, but it writes it in English letters so you could pronounce it out. So right. if they wrote the Hebrew words, but in English letters to pronounce out the words, is that allowed?
Rabbi.
It would be allowed. I don't know if it's allowed. I don't know.
Okay.
Aval korinoto lelo azot.
Rabbi, we said before that the Megillah cannot be written in any other language than Hebrew. That's the difference between Megillah and everything else. So it has to be written in Hebrew. If you write it in English, Hebrew, it says Hebrew. That's not good.
We're going to see now, Moshe. Aval korinoto lelo azot bela'az. You could read it to foreigners in a foreign language. Ha'amar, didn't you say, Kira'ah bechol hashon lo yatsa? So you just told me that you can't read it in Targum, you can only read it in Hebrew. Now you tell me you can read it to foreigners in their foreign language, right? V'ha'amarta lo yatsa, Kira'ah bechol hashon lo yatsa. Rav and Shmuel said an answer. The Amri tarvayu bela'az yevani. He's reading it in Greek. Greek is special. Other languages, no. Korino to la'az. What type of la'az? A guy that speaks Greek, and you can read it to him in Greek. Hechidami. What's the case? Ilema dichtiva ashurit. If it's written in Hebrew, v'kari la yevanit, and he's reading it into Greek. Hainu al peh. That's ba'al peh. Amar Ravacha, Amar Rabbi Lazar, sheketuva bela'az yevanit. He has it written in Greek. Now, the Gemara is going to go on a tangent over here. It's not even a tangent. It's just another statement said by the Bi'acha Amar Rabbi Lazar. Minayin, how do we know? Shekera'o HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYaakov El, that Hashem called Yaakov El, which is a tremendous honor, that Hashem rested His Shekhinah on Yaakov Avinu to the point that He called him El. Shne'emar Vayikra lo El Elohei Yisrael. Now, if you look at the pasuk, it says, Vayatzev Sham Mizbeach. Yaakov built a Mizbeach. Vayikra lo, and he called him El Elohei Yisrael. It seems like Yaakov called the Mizbeach El Elohei Yisrael. But the Gemara is saying no, that's not what it means. The Isal Kadaitach, if you think La Mizbeach Kara lo Yaakov El, Yaakov called the Mizbeach El, Vayikra lo Yaakov Mivele. It should say, and Yaakov called him, because until now Hashem was talking. Ella Vayikra lo li Yaakov. So we have to insert a lamed. Vayikra lo Yaakov. He, Hashem, called Yaakov El. Umi kera'o El. Who called him El? Elohei Israel, the God of Israel. So Yaakov called, Hashem called Yaakov El. Okay. Meitive, I'll ask you a question. We're going back on Rav and Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel said that when the Mishnah said you can read it in a foreign language, it's not any foreign language. It's only Greek. It's written in Greek, and you're reading it in Greek. And Greek is like an equivalent of Hebrew. But other foreign languages, you want to read it in Spanish, even though if it's written in Spanish, it's no good. Because it has to be written in Hebrew and read in Hebrew. Meitive, I'll ask you a question.
Now, how can we understand that the Mizbeach Elokei Israel? It's a Mizbeach. How can you call the Mizbeach Elokei Israel? So must be El Elokei. Two, this Mizbeach is for Elokei Israel, not Elokei Israel. How can you call Mizbeach Elokei Israel?
We find it says it doesn't mean the Mizbeach is God. Moshe Rabbeinu called it
Elokei Israel. If you don't put the El over there, it's a problem.
Thank you, Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu called the Mizbeach Hashem Nisi.
Okay.
Yud K Vav K. All right, go figure that one out and come back. Says the Gemara, Meitive, Kira'a, Giftit, Ivrit, Ilmit, Madit, Yevanit. If he read the Megillah in Giftit or Ivrit, right now, Ivrit is not Hebrew. It means Lashon Ever Hanahar, Rashi says. Ilmit, Madit, Yevanit, Lo Yatsa. So you see that you can't read the Megillah in Greek. Says Gemara, Halo Damya, Ela Leha. It's like this: Giftit legiftit, Ivri leivrin, Ilmi leilmi, Yevani leveni Yatsa. So no, that one is talking. You're reading it in Greek to somebody that doesn't understand Greek, and we're going when you're reading it in those languages to the people that understand it. Ihachi. So now that you're telling me that you can read in any language to somebody that understands it. And when the Mishnah said that if you read it in a foreign language, it's talking about the people that don't understand that language. So why are Rav and Shmuel saying the Mishnah is talking in Greek? The difference is, does the guy understand the language or not? If he understands the language, it could be English, Spanish, or Greek. And if he doesn't understand the language, Greek is no more special because we said Kira'ah Yevani, right, is not Yotzeh. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, Ravu Shmuel, Amai Mukmila.
Yeah, but what are you reading this from? Where are you getting a cloth that has this language? Because they're not even allowed to write it.
He wrote it. We'll see.
But you're not allowed. But
right?
How's it even kosher to use?
It's kosher only for these people. It's not generally kosher. It's kosher for them. Right? Ravu Shmuel. Amai Mukila lematnitin bela az Yevanit. Why are they saying it's talking about Greek? There's nothing special about Greek. Every language works. Lukmuha, let them say it's talking bechola az in any language. Ela matnitin kebraita. The Mishnah that says kira lo azot bela az is talking people that understand that language. Look in Rashi. Matnitin kebraita. Zu mitukma kira'a bechol lashon dekatani matnitin lo yatsa. When it says if you read a language, you're not yotzeh. Kegon gifti lemadi mumadi legifti. You cross the languages. You read it in gifti to the madayim, and madayi to the gifting. Aval korino tolelo azot bela az ishkil shono. As long as they understand that it's good. English for English people is good. Spanish for Spanish people is good. Just don't mix it up. So that's what the Mishnah is with the Braita. V'chi itmar de Ravu Shmuel. So what did Rav and Shmuel say? La az Yevanit. Be'alma itmar. It's a standalone statement. Ravu Shmuel da Amri Tarvayu. La az Yevanit la kol kasher. Rav and Shmuel say, just like Hebrew is good for everybody, Greek is good for everybody. Hakatani Yevani li Yevani. Doesn't it say in the Braita you can read it in Greek only to the Greeks? Li Yevanim in lekule almalo. For Greeks, yes. For everybody else, no. So you're right. The Braita is like the Chachamim. Inhu the Amri Rashbag. They say like Rashbag. The Tanan Rashbag Omer, Af Sefarim lo hitiru sheyichtevu ela Yevani. They only allowed Sefarim to be written in Greek. And not like Rabbi Yehuda that says Sefarim are in Greek is only Sefer Torah. Like the Chachamim that said all the Sefarim, including the Megillah, can be in Greek. Velimru halacha kirashbag. So why didn't they just say the halacha is like Rashbag? I amri halacha kirashbag. If they would say the halacha is like Rashbag, that we gave a heter to write in Greek for everything, hava amina hani mili sha'ar sefarim. That's only other books of Tanakh. Aval Megillah dichtiv ba kichtavam emalo kamash malan. Since the Megillah says, like their language, you might say has to be in Hebrew, kamash malan, that it could even be in Greek. Greek got the status of Hebrew from the time Yaft Elohim liyefev yishkon ba'al l'shem. That's according to Rashbag. That's the halachas like Rashbag. So Greek is universal. It could be for everything. And the other languages, we allow you to write it only, it's not universal. So when we say, Joe, when we say that you can't write it in English, it means an English Megillah is not a kosher Megillah that everybody could use it. It's a limited scope Megillah. It's only kosher for English-speaking people. But a Megillah that's written in Hebrew, or according to Rav and Shmuel, a Megillah written in Greek is kosher for everybody. That's kosher.
But didn't we also say that if somebody doesn't even understand Hebrew, but they sit down and hear the Megillah in Hebrew, they yotzeh?
That's correct. Hebrew or
so
Greek.
What does even have Amina to do it in a language for them to understand it? Mashayachli, just listen to the Hebrew and your Yosera, and we could do it the right way.
Let's say you don't read Hebrew.
Nobody in the whole town reads Hebrew, but they have a Megillah? It's a weird town.
Let's say you're going away to Korea for Purim, and you don't read any Hebrew, but you very want to read it. So you have a sofer, write it for you in English.
Okay.
If a foreigner hears it in English, he's yotzeh. But if a foreigner hears it in Hebrew, he doesn't know what the guy is saying. Why is he yotzeh? So the Gemara answers, Midi dahave anashim ve'amei haaretz. It's like the ladies and the amei haaretz. They don't understand the Hebrew and they yotzeh. So too, you have a guy that doesn't understand Hebrew, he's yotzeh. Mat kifla Ravina. Ravina says, what do you got to blame the ladies for? Atu anan ha'achashteranim b'nei haramachim miyadinan. Do we know what these achashteranim are? Ela mitzvat kiryah. It's a mitzvah to read the words. U'persume nisa. And through that, you get the persume nisa. So even though you missed some words, you got the picture. Hachanami mitzvat kiryah u'persume nisa. When somebody that doesn't understand the Megillah hears it, he doesn't understand the words, but he asks them, what's the story? They tell him the basic story. He gets persume nisa. Look in Rashi, u'persume nisa. Afal pi she'en yodim ma sheshomim, even though they don't understand what they're hearing, sho'alim et shomim. They ask the people that are listening. Ve'omrim, and they say, mahi akiryazu, what's this reading? What was the miracle? They tell them. If he read it in Yatza, if he read it in pieces, one perek can stop, another perek can stop, he's yotzeh. Lo havu yadi, Rabbanan, the Chachamim didn't know my sirugin. What does it mean in pieces? Shamuha, they heard, la'am to the Rabbi, to the maid in Rabbi's house. She was very learned. She told the rabbis, they were coming in groups, Rabbi, into Rabbi's yeshiva. Ad mataya atem nechnasim sirugim. Why are you going in pieces? So they learned that sirugim means a little bit and stop and then a little bit. Lo havu yadi rabbanan may halug logot. The rabbis didn't know what this vegetable halug logot is. Shamu ala amte de Rabbi. He was selling, I believe the article translates it as purslane. Why are you spreading your haluglogot? So they learned that this parfahine is haluglogot. What does the word salsila mean? It's talking about the Torah. Salsela, beautify it. Utrom memeka, and the Torah will lift you up. Shamu hala'am te debe Rabbi. They heard the Amar be Rabbi. They have it Amra leho gavra. She was telling him in. He was turning over his hair. Why are you styling your hair? Why are you playing with your hair? The rabbis didn't know. Throw your package on Hashem. They didn't understand the word Yahav. One time. I was going with an Arab. I was carrying a package. The Amarli, he told me, Shekol Yahavich, take your package. Veshadi Agamlai. So they learned that the word Yahav is a package. Lo aviyadi Rabbana, the rabbis didn't know. My bete'etatia bimtatea shmit. I'm going to sweep it with a broom of destruction. Shamuha la'am tedebe. They didn't know what the word te'etatia is. Tahava amra le'havratash. She told her friend, Shkol tatia. Betati beita. Take the broom and sweep the house. So they learned that tate is to sweep. Tanu Rabbana, the rabbis taught. Kira'ah serugin. If you read it in pieces, lo yatsa is not yotze. Sorry, serusin is backwards. Lo yatsa. He read the second perek and then the first perek. Rabbi Mona Omer Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Mona says the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Af serugin. Or even if he read it in pieces in the right order, first perek stop, second perek stop. Im shahag gedel ligmoret kula. If in the stops he waited long enough to finish the whole Megillah, Jose Lirosh, he has to go back to the beginning. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Halacha ke Rabbi Mona. The halacha is like Rabbi Mona, that if you waited too long enough to finish it, you're not Yotzeh. Shama Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. Amar le Abai le Rav Yosef. So Abai asked Rav Yosef, Kedei ligmoret kula. What does it mean to finish the whole thing? Me'echa dekai. From where he's up to, let's say he's up to Perek Tet, right? He's not finished Tet. There's just that last 3 Pesukim left. So if he waited enough to read 3 Pesukim, he has to start again. Or Dilma Mirei Shelesefer. Kedel Ligmoret Kula is always from the beginning till the end, the whole 10 Perakim. Amarlei, so Rav Yosef told the Mirei Shelesefer. It's from the beginning to the end. The Imloken. If you're not going to say that, you don't have a standard amount of time. How long you have to wait before you're not yotzeh? Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Yibn Bar Abba, Amar Rav, halacha ke Rabbi Mona. Rabbi Yibn Bar says the name of Rav. The halacha is like Rabbi Mona. Shahakin delik morgula Jose Lerosh. The Shmuel Amar Shmuel says, and halacha ke Rabbi Mona. The halacha is not like Rabbi Mona. Surah Madnuhachi. That's how they taught it in Surah. In Pumpedita, they taught it as follows. Amar Rav Kana Amarav halacha ke Rabbi Mona. Shmuel Amar en halacha ke Rabbi Mona. That's what these two versions are. That Rav says we hold like Rabbi Mona. Shmuel says not. Rabbi Rabbi had an opposite. Rav Amar en halacha ke Rabbi Mona. Rav says halacha is not like Rabbi Mona. Shmuel Amar halacha ke Rabbi Mona. Shmuel says halacha is like Rabbi Mona. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, "Nekot Rav Bibi biadecha." Go like Rav Bibi. That Rav was the one that says halacha is not like Rabbi Mona. Why? The Shmuel who the hayish lechida. Shmuel is the one that worries about lone opinions against the majority. Over here, the Stam Mishnah says Sirugin is Yotzeh, and it doesn't say who. Only Rabbi Mona comes and he's choshesh. He has to be not without shahake delik morakula. Tzedat yachid. Why should we be choshesh for a dat yachid? Who's choshesh for a dat yachid? Shmuel. Where do we find that? The Tanan Shomeret Yavam. So there's a concept of Yibum. Before the Yibum happens, after the brother dies, before his widow makes Yibum a halitza, we assume that she's connected to the brothers. How much is she connected to the brothers? She's almost like an arusa, almost like she's engaged, because technically she all she needs is biyah in order to be married. So let's say one of the brothers, let's say there's one brother. Let's say he wants to marry his ex-sister-in-law's sister. Is she achot ishto? So if you hold of Zika that he's connected to her, in effect, she's like his wife's sister. So that's what we're going to discuss now. Shomeret Yavam, a woman who's waiting for Yibum. Shekidesh Achiv et achota. The brother of the deceased married the sister. So there's a difference if there's only one brother, right? Let's say there's Reuven and Shimon. Reuven was married to Rachel. Reuven died. Who's Rachel have a connection to? There's only Shimon. So it's a very strong connection. Whereas if you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and Reuven dies, Rachel, maybe Shimon, maybe Levi. It's not as clear of a connection, right? It's got to be one of them, but it's not as clear a connection. So there's Zika with one brother, and there's Zika with two brothers. Not everybody holds, more Tanaim hold of Zika with one brother. Less Tanaim hold of Zika that it's so strong with two brothers. So here we're saying, Shumeret Yavam, Shikedesh Achiv, one of the brothers married, he made Kedushin to the sister of the Shumeret Yavam. Right, so let's say Rachel's sister is Leah. Shimon made Kedushin to Leah, who's the sister of the girl who he has this connection with, right? Because she was his brother's wife. Mishum Rabbi Yehuda b'metera amru. They send them Rabbi Yehuda b'metera. Omrim lo. We tell them, Hamten, wait. Ad shi'aseh achicha gadol ma'aseh. Let your older brother make chalitza or yibum. This way, Rachel stops being connected to you, and now you can marry your betrothed because she's not, her sister is not your wife. Amar Shmuel says Alacha Rabbi ben Betera, and that's a dat yachid. That's a dat yachid. Why? Because even since there's two brothers, it's not such a strong zika. Most of the rabbis would say that that's not a strong zika. Look in the Rashi. Till the older brother does a maaseh. Leave him taught till he does something with the yavama. Or lachlot, or liyabim. Either halitza yibu. While the yavama is in front of all the brothers, lachlot or liyabim, to choose to make yibum or halitza. For each one of the brothers, it's like his wife, al zikat yibum, by the connection of the yibum. Ve'asur ba'achota. Therefore, he can't marry the sister, mishum achotisha. It's like his wife's sister. The kasava Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera holds, yesh zika afilu betrei. The zika even on two brothers. The kol sheken bechadu pligi rabanan aleh. The chachamim argue. The amri, and they say, ho'il v'shne achim hem. Since there's two brothers, en zikato miyuchedet. This zika is not unique. Liot mutelet alechem hem liot ki ishto. It's not like his wife mutar ba'achoto. But Shmuel was choshesh for the dat yachid. But Lama says, since Rav is the one that says, en halacha keRabbi Mona, we hold like Rav, that we don't love Rabbi Mona. And even Shahak Kedelik Moret Kula is not Jose Lerosh. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbi said, Ishmit Baha Sofer Otiyot, the Sofer wrote the Megillah, and he left out letters, or Pesukim, or words, the Kera'an HaKoreh. So the reader read him, Kemetur Gemanam Targem, like the guy that reads the Targum. The Targum is not written in the Torah. He says it Ba'al Peh. So to this guy, he saw they skipped the Pasuk. He read it Ba'al Peh. Yatzah, he's Yotzeh. As long as most of the Megillah is written, it's okay. Meiti, I'll ask you a question. Hayuba otoyot metushtashot. If some of the letters in Megillah were smudged, or mekura oto, they were ripped. If you could still read them, Kesherat Kasher. And if you can't read them, Pisula, what's the difference? Even if he left out the letters, it's Kasher. Lo Kasha, Habikula, Habimiksata. If it's the whole Megillah is erased or smudged out, it's Pasul. That's what it's talking about. It's not just one letter is erased. Most of the letters are erased. Habimiksata, but if it's less than a majority, like we said, as long as most of it is there, you read the rest Ba'al Peh and you yotze. Tanu Rabbanan, Hishmit Baha Kore Pasuk Echad. The reader missed the pasuk, not the writer. The reader missed the pasuk. Lo Yomar, the guy shouldn't say. Ikrad Kula. Let me hear the guy. I'll read the rest of it. Ve'harkach Ikra Oto Pasuk, and then I'll go back and read that one pasuk that I skipped. Ela Kore Me Oto Pasuk Ve'elach. You got to read from that pasuk and on, Because if you read the whole thing and then go back to that pasuk, it comes out, you read it. Limafreya, you read it out of order. Nichnas lebet hakeneset, if he came into the shul. Umatzu tzibur, and he found the kahal. Shekar uchetzia, that read half of the Megillah. Lo yomar, he shouldn't say. Ekra chetzia metzibur. I'll read half with the tzibur. V'achar kach ekra chetzia. And then I'll read the half that I missed. Ela koreh otam et chilata v'atzovav. You have to start from the beginning and read from the beginning to the end. Mitnamnem yatsa. If he read it dozing off, he's yotze. Hey chidami mitnamnem. What's called dozing? Amar Ravashi says nim velo nim. He's awake, he's sleeping, but he's not sleeping. Tir velo tir. He's awake, but he's not awake. Tekaru leve'ani. If you call him, he answers. Velo yadal hadure sebara. He can't answer logically. If you remember him, hey, remember what I told you, Midkat, remember that you spoke to him. Haya kotva dorsha umagiha. If he was writing it, explaining it, or correcting it in kiven libo, if he had in mind, yatsa, he was yotze. Says Gemara, hey chidami, what's the case? How's he writing it and he's yotze? Either kamisader pesuka besuka v'katavle. He says, "Vayhi b'mei hashverosh," and then he writes it. Ki kiven libo. Even if he had in mind to be yotze, my have it. What's the difference? Al pehu. When he read the Megillah, it still wasn't written. So how can he be yotze? He's reading it ba'al peh. Ela the opposite. Tekatav pesuka pesuka v'karile. First he writes "Vayhi b'mei hashverosh." Then he looks inside and he reads it. Umiyatza is the yotze reading like that. Amar Rabbi Chelbo, Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria, Amar Rav, Halacha kedevreha omer kula. The halacha is like the one who says that you have to read the whole Megillah. Va'afilu leman Amar, even according to the opinion. Mi'ish Yehudi, even according to the opinion. That we'll see later that you only have to start from Ish Yehudi. Before you start reading, the whole Megillah has to be there. So even though you wrote down a pasuk and you read it, you wrote a pasuk and you read it, that's not called reading from a Megillah. It's not a Megillah until you write the whole thing. Ella, even though he's writing a new Megillah, where's he copying from? Temancha Megillah kameh. There's a Megillah in front of him, Vikari lamineh, and he's reading it from the whole Megillah. Pesuka, pasuk at a time. Vechatavla, and then he writes it down. So we see, we're talking that he's writing from a Megillah, and that's, if he had in mind to read from the Megillah that he's writing from, he's Yotzeh. But the Megillah that he's writing is not available until it's finished. Let's say that it's a proof. Since we're assuming that when you're writing, you're copying from a kosher Megillah, let's assume it's a proof. You're not allowed to write one letter, not from the writing, right? So you see, from the fact that it's assumed that he's writing from a Megillah, that's the halacha. You have to do that. Says the Gemara, it's not a proof. Maybe most people do it, so we assume the Mishnah is talking like that. But if you write a Megillah ba'al peh, go ahead. Gufa. We learned Amar Rabba Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Asur lechtov ot achat shelo min haktav. You're not allowed to write one word, not copying from another scroll in anything you're writing. Meiti, I'll ask you a question. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar ma'aseh Rabbi Meir. There was a story of Rabbi Meir shalach le'aber shana be'Asya. He went to Asya, someplace in Chutz La'aretz, when there was a gezerah, and he went to declare the leap year. There was no Megillah. He wrote it by heart. And then he wrote it. So you see, you can write it ba'al peh. Rabbi Abu Shani Rabbi Meir the Mekayim be'afafecha yeshur negdecha. Rabbi Meir knew the Megillah so cold he could close his eyes. He could read it from his mind. It's like a photographic memory. Amri le Rami Bar Chama le Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti. What is this? So he told him, Amar lo elu divrei Torah. It's referring to divrei Torah. It says, blink your eyes. If you blink your eyes and stop learning Torah, you forget it. So even though it's so difficult to remember, Miyusharim etzel Rabbi Meir. When Rabbi Meir closed his eyes, he saw written on his eyelids, he saw Torah. So he was able to copy the Megillah and write. Rav Chisda, Ashkechel Rav Hananel. Rav Chisda found Rav Hananel. He was one of the Sofrim in the time of the Gemara. He was writing Sefarim, not copying from another Chumash. Amar Le, he told him, I know you. You know the whole Torah backwards and forwards. You can write it ba'al peh. But the rabbi said, you can't write one letter without copying. From the fact that he told him that you really can write the whole Torah ba'al peh. Michlal the Musharim and its law. Must be he also had a photographic memory. He knew it clearly. He could write it in his sleep. So how come he didn't let him? The Rabbi Meir katav. Rabbi Meir wrote because it was Miyusharim Mitzlo. So why didn't they let Rav Hananel write Miyusharim Mitzlo? Sha'atada hakshani. Really, we don't let, even if you know Baal Peh. Rabbi Meir had no choice. There was no Megillah. Abaye Shara l'debe Barhavu. Barhavu was famous for writing tefillin. Lemichtav tefillin. He let Barhavu write tefillin umezuzot shalom menaketav without copying from a sefer. Kiman, who's he going like? Kihaitana, the Tanya Rabbi Yirmiyah Omer, Mishum Rabbeinu tefillin umezuzot nechtavot shalom menaketav. They can be written not from a paper. And the second chidush ve'en tzrichot sirtut, and you don't have to make lines on the tefillin and mezuzot. That's what the Braita says. Ve'hilcheta b'halacha is tefillin and tzrichim sirtut. Tefillin doesn't need lines. Mezuzot tzrichim sirtut. Mezuzot need lines. Idi ve'idi, both tefillin and mezuzot nechtavot can be written. Shalom menaketav, not from a paper. Ma'ita'ama migras gerisan. Everybody knows Kriyat Shema by heart. Everybody knows those parashiyot. If you're a sofer and you know the Hasidot and Yetirot by heart, you can write it ba'al peh. V'chen halacha. We'll leave it over here. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.
Rabbi, regarding Yaakov,
yes.
Right? We saw before that Hamur Hashem b'nei Elim, right?
I was learning here.
Yes.
And we said b'nei Elim is the Avot.
Correct.
So what's the problem? What's the confusion? We saw it before that it says b'nei Elim. We're saying, okay, Karalo is.
Even with credit card machine.
Elim theoretically doesn't mean an El as a god. It means Elim, the mighty ones. Eleh haaretz. But the chidush over here is that he actually called him El, that he called him like a god. And although it's not avodah zarah, this is what we said on Shabbat morning, that the avot hen hamerkava. This is a similar concept to that idea.
So, but also Abraham, I really have to say it's Kel like, or only Yaakov?
Hold on 1 second.
Rabbi.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing. Not important. It's important. It's very important.
The Ben Ish Chai said on yesterday's daf, Arizal says, no. No, that's not what he says.
How much you getting? How much you? 8? Okay.
I don't know more.
1,000.
Okay.
2 A's?
But I think if you bring in a pasuk, it's only on Yaakov, Rabbi. You have a pasuk special for Yaakov, so it's only Yaakov.
It could be Hashem called Abraham something else.
So why didn't you tell me? I mean, it didn't call him Kel.
Over here, that's what we're talking about. I don't know.
Rabbi's coming tomorrow?
Hopefully, Bezat Hashem.
BZH.
Thank you.
Take care.
Why don't you